My name is Ned Mason, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Wave Neuroscience. And I'm going to be joining you today from Cardiff by the Sea in Southern California. And what we're going to talk about is a new way to measure function of the brain, report that, a new vocabulary of talking about brain health and ways to improve brain health.
Ned, welcome, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is so cool. Just where we are. I hope you guys are definitely watching the video for this one. But we are in one of the coolest places I've been in a while. Just did one of the coolest things I've ever done in a while. And my life in this show is all about just understanding the human potential. And what you all are doing here at Wave Neuro is that in a very unique way. And it's something that I think we all, when we hear, are going to go, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense, of course. But not all of us are really tapping into brain health. So first of all, welcome. And secondly,
thank you.
What is going on at Wave Neuro? What are you guys doing here?
All right. So what we're going to talk about today and what we're focused on is changing and bringing to the public an understanding of the brain that just hasn't been available. And not just the report we're going to talk through today and this technology capability, but it's really how do we communicate and talk about how we're feeling? How do we objectively look at these measures and understand what's happening in our head? Which is it's interesting, like you said, it's something that most people just assume they know how they feel and how their brain is functioning, when in fact to put numbers to it is a different experience. And it's enlightening, and just like all the other wearables and data that we're collecting about ourselves, it helps inform how we live our lives if we want to be optimized and perform our best.
It's so true. And again, like getting a brain scan, we're gonna walk through my EEG here, my brain care review. I'll share all my results with you. All my results with you guys. I've been given a green light ahead of time that. Turns out I'm not an actual idiot. I don't have too many rocks up there.
We did a pre-screening of Chase's brain.
But so I talk so much on the show about things that we can do to bring attention and awareness to our lives, our physical health, our mental and emotional well-being. And in a lot of those modalities, it has to start with a baseline. We need to know before we change our diet, before we change our training, before we change anything, ideally we're going to at least understand what we're currently doing or not doing so that we can make the best next steps. And that's what we're doing here today, right? We're getting my brain baseline, and then hopefully I can, go from there. So this is going to be my review, everybody. And then we're going to go from there and help understand why getting a brain health baseline is so important.
Exactly.
Right.
Let's jump in. So what I first want to talk about is the process we're going through right now is not medical.
Okay.
This is about wellness and performance. And what does that mean? That means I'm not a doctor. It means what we're going to run through here, we're not diagnosing you.
Right.
We are not treating a medical condition with this performance side of our business.
This is just a snapshot of my upstairs.
That's exactly right. So with that, let's go ahead and this is only brain science information we're going to run through. And it's really high level, but it's important to understand and create a vocabulary on how do we think about our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're going to run through just 4 quick brainwave bands and how they impact us. What do they mean? These are what we're measuring and looking for. And then things start to make sense about how are you performing? And then more importantly, like you said, we want to objectively understand where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we want to go?
Yeah.
How do we want to feel?
What is a brain goal? I've never even thought about that, and
we'll walk through that.
Yeah, very cool.
So really quickly, the top 2 brain waves that we're looking at here, delta and theta. These aren't things we're making up. These are in the neuroscience community. I'm just going to briefly talk about them, and I'm going to take some liberties, which I can do because I'm not a neuroscientist.
Please,
I'm more in the commercial operations side, and so. I'm sure our neuroscientists will cringe a little bit, but my job is to relate this. My job is to relate science to all of us and make it accessible and understandable. So,
which is a crucial component to all of this, because this is where I think a lot of us, myself included, I think back on my wellness journey, there's a lot of data and numbers and like the clinical aspect that has its place, but translating that to the everyday human to frankly give a shit but then to also just understand and then more importantly know how to apply. So I appreciate that.
Perfect. All right. So of these four, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the slowest brainwave, delta, and then run down through to beta. And I'm going to do this really quickly. Again, I'm not trying to make anybody a brainwave specialist here, but delta, as most of us know from listening to sleep podcasts and sleep experts like Matthew Walker and Andrew Huberman and
Sean
so forth.
Stevenson, so many sleep health experts out there.
So those are the experts.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here for sleep, though, is delta is associated with deep sleep. And so we're going to look at that measure. Next up, we're going to look at theta. So we know deep sleep, stage 3, 4. Theta is actually associated with stage 1, light sleep. So why are we looking at this sleepy slow wave when you were here during the day? You just took this scan where we collected over 1,000 data points in 10 minutes. You put this, kind of a Ferrari of an EEG system on your head.
Can I show them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this was the device, everybody, that I'm sure at this point you've probably seen. But this is what we're using here. This is the future.
Yeah.
This is what we see in these labs.
So this is called Zito. We utilize this. It's not our company. But we utilize the best technology available on the market to gather the information we need to then take the next step.
Beautiful. Amazing.
And so out of this data, we're looking at this 10-minute brain scan. And as you sat down, we're in this room, soundproofed. It's quiet. We turn off the lights. It's very comfortable. You're relaxed. You put on that headset for 10 minutes. And what we're trying to do is put you in a state of relaxation, but we don't want you to meditate. We don't want you to box breathe. We want you to sit with yourself. And we're doing that because we want to see how your brain is functioning at rest.
As neutral as possible.
As neutral as possible.
Okay.
And when we do that, again, this is daytime. We shouldn't see a lot of slow wave activity in a well-functioning brain.
Right.
And so if we do see that, and we'll go through your report, a lot of theta or interference is going to cause us, to use a technical term, some brain fog. It's going to cause us to have some fatigue. It's going to cause us to have a lack of cognitive endurance. And that's a term I really didn't think about.
Yeah, that just hit me. I've never heard that. I love that, by the way, cognitive endurance.
Yeah, and I think, all of us, especially, coming from my background or your background of athletics and military, we see some people who can just power all day. They don't have to moderate when they utilize their brain. And this is, for example, the athlete who's just going to keep training the entire 2-hour practice, and the other athlete who is going to pick a few sets or a few drills that they're going to focus on, but they don't have the cognitive endurance to go the whole time.
Yeah, which is a really unique point. That term, I think, for me is pretty self-explanatory, but just for the listener, for the watcher, just think about that. Already how we can apply this. Maybe you think that you suffer from poor endurance, poor physical ability, poor physical endurance, and that might be true, but something like this could shine a light on maybe where it is more cognitive endurance, and maybe we're training the wrong muscle, we're training the wrong organ.
Right. And so this presence of theta, and we'll walk through some reasons of why it would potentially be there, but it can disrupt some memory, can disrupt some cognitive function, but kind of put a fog over your brain function during the day. Okay, so the next two that we're going to quick run through are alpha and beta.
Okay.
So alpha is where we really focus. It's where, as a company, we know that alpha is stable and durable over time, meaning that if you came in next week and did a scan, we're going to see very similar results.
Okay, so these more or less should be kind of our brain constants.
That's right.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're looking at basic measures that will only change if you have some substantial, insult to the brain or a substantial change in your lifestyle. And so with alpha, that's really a measure of how awake, alert, most importantly, how well can you focus? So our neuroscience team will walk through oftentimes that a well-functioning brain can focus well. And focus is probably one of the most difficult things for the human brain to do. And when we get tired or we have a bad night of sleep or things are happening in our lives where we're frustrated, we can, if you step back, those are periods of time where you have a lot of trouble sitting down focusing on a topic for 2 hours. And so we know that's important, and that's involved with alpha and not only just alpha in general, but how cohesive this alpha signal is, or synchronization from the back of the brain to the front of the brain.
Okay.
So are we, another way to think about this is, if an MRI is a snapshot of a symphony, this beautiful symphony, you can picture it in your head, the strings and the horns and everything else going on.
We are a symphony. The human body absolutely is.
And
a
the
symphony.
brain is definitely that.
Yeah.
And so taking a picture of that is important. You need to understand the structure. We're not taking a picture of the brain in that way. Instead, we're listening to the symphony. We're listening to how it sounds. Is everything aligned? Are the strings a half a beat off? Well, you took this beautiful music and now it's a little bit of a mess, and you have to work really hard to pull that signal out of the noise. So that sometimes is, we're also looking at that measure. How much synchrony do you have in your brain?
Painting some great pictures, by the way. Like, everything you're saying, I immediately can just already understand these analogies and putting in. It's just like, yeah, the symphony could be sounding great, but what if there is a third chair string in the back that is one level down out of tune? I'm butchering the terms, I know, but just, this is the stuff we're talking about measuring and fine-tuning that, and imagine how much greater the symphony is going to be after that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then the last thing we're looking at in alpha, and this is very important on the performance side, how quickly does your brain cycle information? And so in the military, we often talk about something that James Boyd from the Air Force came up with called the OODA loop. You're familiar with it?
These terms, gosh, it's so many things I haven't heard.
You thought you could get away from it. I'm bringing it back. So the OODA loop is OODA, and it's a fighter pilot tactic, kind of vocabulary term. How quickly can you observe, orient yourself to that observation, that environment, make a decision, and take action? So I don't care if you're on a sports field, if you're in a plane as a fighter pilot, you're doing any other activity, your OODA loop matters. And so what we're able to do is we measure alpha. We're able to see how fast is your OODA loop.
Wow.
So a healthy human, and again, I'm not a neuroscientist, but in general is seen as somebody operating between 8 and 13 hertz.
Okay.
So this is packets of information a second or cycles per second. And a healthy human is typically around 9.8 hertz.
Okay.
And, again, there's lots of variants. We're biological. Faster doesn't necessarily mean better. But what we do see is somebody who has a synchronized brain at a faster speed tends to cycle information faster. Their OODA loop is a little bit quicker. Now, for most of us in our day in and day out activities, it doesn't matter. But if you're coming from a background like mine where it's Navy SEAL, special operations, and reaction time and ability to read a complex environment become important, or if you're in certain sports and in certain positions within those sports, we're taking in a lot of information, making a quick decision become important.
Crucial, yeah.
Then this OODA loop speed or alpha, what is your optimal speed become very important.
Wow.
And then finally we have beta, and we're not going to talk too much about beta, but really this is a brainwave that's associated with drive and attention.
Okay.
And is going to be presented when you are awake and alert and engaging with your environment.
Gotcha.
So with that, I think we should jump into
cool.
your
So
brain
we
report.
got our waves, we got our ranges, our norms. So let's see how the brain frequency spectrum lines up for me. All right,
Chase. So we're going to walk you through what is called the Brain Care Report. So this is taken, it looks fairly simple. We have some very simple measures. Our goal is to take very complex neuroscience and simplify it in a way that you and I can understand and have a conversation about it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Exactly. I thank our scientists every day. That doesn't require us to have a degree in neuroscience. It doesn't require us to have read numerous books on this. This is very conversational. We can measure this over time. So you now have a brain baseline.
Amazing.
Which,
wow.
And for your audience, I'll just say right now, your brain looks amazing.
Killing it, great brain. Awesome, everybody, all right.
And frankly, everybody's brain is. This is one thing that some people are a little bit nervous coming in.
Sure.
And I know I was when I first came here.
I was excited, but excitement is just another form of nerves.
Right. And what's interesting is that as we walk through this, we never once comment on how smart you are, how capable you are, your emotional or any kind of IQ or EQ. Those are just not topics we can measure, and frankly, that we're interested in. There's other measures that do a great job at those things.
This is objective science.
That's it. We're really looking at the brain like the engineers and scientists that we are, and we're not providing labels on that. We're not providing anything but objective science and numbers.
Gotcha.
And hopefully some context to what those mean.
Yeah, of course.
So the very first thing we're going to go through is, and the most important thing on this, is your brainwave synchrony score. And so this is a conglomeration of the different measurements we make, and we're looking at each of those brainwaves we just talked through. And we're getting an objective score. And in this case, we really want to see people above 80.
Okay.
And obviously you're looking at 85 here, 85.2, which is a great assessment of your cognitive health.
Okay.
So if you walk away from here with anything, it's the things that you're doing in your life, your sleep, the things you're doing to sleep well. So whether that's getting to bed early, limiting your late night alcohol, chilling your room, whatever those sleep hygiene habits are, they're working.
Wow.
The things that...
Love to hear it.
Yeah. So, I mean, this gives all of us in the performance space a sense of, okay, I'm doing all these things. Am I getting the outcome I want? Because at the end of the day, your brain health is a big outcome that we all want. It's not the only outcome. We all want to be healthy, our joints healthy. We want to be muscular enough to do the things in life that we want to do. But cognitive health is pretty important. So the things you're doing, Chase, are working.
Which is great, by the way, because I think that piece of feedback alone is so valuable for me already, because so many of the things that make up my healthy habits of what I do or don't do, what I eat or don't eat, what I think or don't think, what I drink or don't drink, the supplements and nutrition, all these practices, there are certain ways that I measure, of course, wearables, maybe the number on the scale, but a lot of it is more qualitative. A lot of it's, I feel good about the choices I'm making, and I also feel good, but that's great to have as well. The quantitative with the qualitative is always what I'm after. So that's really great feedback to know.
Yeah, one kind of thing that I think about often when we walk through with clients their report is a lot of us meditate. We do all these things that take up a lot of time, but we don't know if they're actually improving our brain function.
Right.
It'd be the equivalent of going to the gym every day and working out, trying these different programs, and never having a mirror.
Interesting. Or never never going for a 1 rep max, never actually testing your capabilities.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's walk through the components here. All right. So how'd you get to this 85% brain synchrony score? First, what we're going to look at is what is your optimal range for your brain? So where is it in the alpha spectrum, in the alpha band, going to operate best?
Okay.
And we're all different, and that's why this becomes important. It's all personalized. And your optimum is between about 9.5 and 10.5 hertz. Again, that's cycles
me or
per second.
that's human?
This is you.
This is me. Okay,
this
gotcha.
is you.
Okay.
We're all different, but we want to see people between 8 and 13. Tends to be healthy, and that's a great place to be.
Okay, good.
What we call neurotypical. And then, so if that's your optimal range, we want to make sure that your current frequency, where you're currently functioning, is within this range. And the great news is you're right within your range, exactly where we want to see you, at about 9.6 hertz for your alpha range. And so this gives us a very good sense that you're operating optimally within your fastest frequency, and back to front, you're operating your synchrony score. Your synchrony is very high.
I have a quick question for you there, and if you can answer, it'd be great. Would you kind of relate this to an HRV? Because it kind of sounded like my range, my central nervous system's ability to fluctuate, to go in and out, but then back to homeostasis. Is that kind of what we're talking about here, but for the brain?
That's a great measure, and I think it's similar in a lot of ways.
Okay.
In addition to what you just said, we all have our own measure. So my HRV might be 60, yours might be 100. But it's where are we?
142 today, actually.
Wow. You just had to drop that on me, didn't you? All right. Obviously, it's an indicator here. No, that's wonderful. So, but if I'm 60 and you're 140, and we want to know, that's our baseline. And so it's not so much a competition of what's higher or lower.
Right.
It's how am I compared to my healthy state? And that's where the similarities lie.
Gotcha.
Here.
I love that. How do I compare to me?
Yeah.
I think that's the ultimate challenge.
Yeah, because we're all so different.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking great there. And then this last score is really important. So if you remember when we talked through the brain waves,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about that light sleep wave that sometimes will creep into our daily activity.
Right.
If we've had any kind of trauma to the brain, again, we can't see.
That's the brain fog you were
the brain
talking
fog,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be caused by, whether it's chemical, physical, mental trauma, poor sleep. We can't tell what's causing that,
Mm-hmm.
but we can see the outcome of it.
We know it's there.
We know it's there.
We know what it
and
does.
so we have an actual measure here of 0 to 25 of this interference score.
Mm-hmm.
And we want a CPO below 10, you're at 8. That tells us in general you sleep pretty dang well.
Cool.
And oftentimes though, some people say, well, I sleep okay.
Uh-huh.
But they're clearly everybody's a little bit different. And then again, I'll defer to the sleep experts, but even they'll say all of us are a little unique in our sleep needs and our sleep architecture that's optimal for us. So we're not telling people how to sleep. We're just giving an indication of how is your sleep impacting your brain performance.
Well, I mean, this right here is such an important takeaway. Sleep health does so much more than just give you energy for the next day. It does so much more than the benefits we can get pretty quickly. It is crucial for our brain health. It is crucial for cleansing out all of the processes that it does overnight. I mean, it takes up, I forget the exact number percentage, but it's a small amount of our total weight, but about 22% of our total daily caloric expenditure.
That's
so
right.
if it's not being able to do its job and do it well, there's a ripple effect.
And that's
Beyond
a great
how
way
you
to put it.
feel.
Yeah. And
That's good to know.
so this is a great indicator that you're sleeping well and that the sleep architecture you're getting. So how, deep sleep and REM and so forth, our architect throughout the night is working for you.
Okay. So would lower be an improvement for me?
Yes.
If the closer to 1 would be an improvement.
That's
okay.
right. That's
So,
right.
which is, see, this is so cool. As great as I feel when I do the things that support my healthy night's sleep, it's great to know that it's like a challenge again. Here we go. Like all the things that I do, I have room for improvement.
Yeah.
I have room to optimize should I choose.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly. So the next thing we're going to go through here is a quick performance summary of your brain. Now, this is based on brain type.
Okay.
And so whenever we make generalizations, and even though this is a tight generalization, there are going to be outliers. So we want to be, just a little bit of a disclaimer here. This just gives us a sense of things that come more naturally to you
Mm-hmm.
and some things you have to work a little harder to accomplish.
Gotcha.
So
Like natural born tendencies versus things we got to
a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
but based on brain function. And so let me quickly walk you through a few of your strengths. So the thing that stands out the most in your brain is your ability to focus and perform under pressure. That's part of your brain type.
My wife might disagree with you.
That's fine.
But actually, no, take it back. Specifically under pressure. I know that I shine under pressure. Like she would say he's squirrel brain, but when it comes to under pressure, yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
All right. You have a deep and reflective learning style. Okay, so let me put some context onto this. When you learn something, somebody with this brain type typically will want to dig deeper into it. You're not very satisfied with veneer level knowledge. You actually want to spend an hour or two, if not more, diving deep
100%.
and understanding it.
Yeah.
And and a really neat ability. So while we can't tell exactly how somebody learns, we can see based on brain type a little bit of, are you more of an experiential learner? Do you have to have your hands on something? Do you need to run the play as an athlete? Or can you watch video? Can you read something and apply it? And so for you, we find with our team finds that you're actually able to learn through technical analysis.
Damn.
You can sit down and study something and apply it and build a knowledge base through that technical analysis. You don't have to experience everything.
Wow. This makes so much sense. I'm thinking back. I wonder if you can relate. Anytime I had to go to a promotion board, it was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But put me out in the field, put me, in charge of a team to actually like lead this task, do this task, execute it, explain it. Not a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, but put me in front of a promotion board and I just have to recite the steps and everything like that. I struggle.
Yeah.
It's doable, but it's more work.
Right. Yeah. No, it makes sense. So, so let's talk through some opportunities. And we go into these again. It's not that you can't do these things. It's just you may have to put a little more effort towards them. And of course, knowledge, wisdom, experience overcome a lot of things. But these are just at first blush. Because you have your deep and reflective learning style, when we assume that that's right, and I think it is, you don't make decisions lightly. You usually, when you come to a conclusion, you've thought it through, and you're pretty sure that you're right.
It's like did you read my diary? Are you seeing into my soul?
Yeah, so I mean, you're pretty confident in that.
Yeah.
And so one thing that our team sees is that you just want to be careful of, or acknowledge that you have some rigidity of your thought process, and that you may be a little bit inflexible. And again, there's no judgment on that statement. If you're right, should you be flexible? Maybe not. But it's just understanding that you have a tendency towards that because you've thought about things quite a bit.
Wow.
Okay, so what comes with that?
Wow.
The next piece that we have with this brain type is that when you've thought things through and then you make a mistake and the outcome isn't what you expected, you may have a tendency to ruminate on that mistake. And let me put it in context of when we talk to field athletes. So some of the football players we work with, if they have this tendency, what happens is if they make a mistake on the field, for the next 2 or 3 plays, they're still thinking about that mistake because they're like, how did I make that mistake? I've looked at the video. I knew what to do.
Yeah.
And so so we work with the coaches actually to come up with tactics and habits to help that player move on from that. Because it's not enough to say move on.
Yeah.
That doesn't do it.
Shake it off.
Move on. Yeah. No, that's not enough. You have to go through a little bit deeper again with this type of brain.
Or it might be, if I'm understanding you correctly, for a different brain type.
Absolutely.
But not for this one. Not
for this brain type. We're all different.
Wow.
And so, so just something to think about. And finally, you again like to learn things at a deep level. So if you have to spend a day that's just task switching,
okay,
constantly a phone call, going to the doctor, now I got to do a haircut, now I have to do something else, now I have to deal with an HR issue or a tech issue, again, you can do it just fine. But that's a day that's not going to be as satisfying for you as though in comparison to spending 2 or 3 hours on a topic.
Yes. Yeah. My mind is blown. This is fascinating to me. Yeah.
Now this is a credit to our incredible data science team, and how they're able to look at the tens of thousands of brains that we've looked at and start to make some correlations. Again, this past summer, it's not perfect. Again, some generalizations, but we're starting to see enough brains that we can start to make some educated guesses. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
And then the last piece we'll look at here in a report is your actual brainwaves. And we put this here just because some people want to know, okay, I see the numbers, I see this beautiful report. Is there science behind this? And there's very, very deep science, 10 years of science and research and development behind this. But basically what we're looking at here is this is the back of your brain, this is the front of your brain, and these are your alpha peaks.
Okay.
And they're perfectly synchronized back to front. We can see your frequency is about 9.5, perfectly aligned. Your beta levels are low on this side. Your theta levels on this side drop down substantially from your alpha peak in a very healthy neurotypical way. And so there is science behind this, so that's why we put that on there. Wow. It's a nice visual.
Wow. This is so cool.
And so now what's important about this is, this at a snapshot, it's insightful. It gives us so much information as individuals of what should we focus on? There are so many things out there. Should you focus on meditation? Should you focus on diet or sleep? You're the expert at all these different modalities, and they all have purpose, but not all at the same time, probably. And which one's going to give you the most bang for your buck right now?
We're going to get that ROI
right now.
Yeah.
And so the great thing is you've done your first recording here.
Yeah.
6 months down the road, hopefully you're feeling even better.
Mm-hmm.
And the things you're doing are optimizing your neuronal function even more. Come in and get a scan. We can do a side-by-side comparison. Are you doing great?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Or unfortunately, life happens.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not feeling as well, in 6 months, you're like, I don't know why, but I'm not feeling as sharp or as cognitively flexible, or I'm not sleeping as well as I was. I don't know why. And I'm not sure, is it something to do with my brain, or is it just life? I'm stressed right now and I have a lot going on. Come in and get a scan.
Mm.
And while we're not going to diagnose a medical condition, we certainly can have that discussion of how has your brain function changed?
Yeah.
And what could have caused that?
Yeah, what's going on in your life to maybe warrant these changes?
Right.
At least just provide a very valuable analysis.
Exactly.
And then the person can bring the data points.
Yep. Yeah. So
wow.
Well, we'll
so cool.
Close this out. Obviously, Chase, we get all of our clients their reports.
Uh-huh.
So this is not behind some black box.
Amazing.
Everybody who comes in is going to have this report in their hands, in their email, and so they can always refer to it.
Wow. I mean, it gives me about 1,000,001 questions. But I want to just think as practical as possible here. First and foremost, and I kind of already hit home on this, seeing that data, that information, and hearing your interpretation of the data solidified in me so many things, which I think all of us would appreciate.
Yep.
It's, yes, the things that I'm doing, as few or as many as they may be, I can get an interpretation of that, a measure of that, to say, yeah, good job, you're on the right path.
Right.
Or maybe what I'm doing isn't giving me that ROI as much as I'd hoped for. And so I get so many flashbacks, actually, as we're going through this. I was telling you, my health coaching clinic, I would do something similar, but for body composition analysis.
Yep.
And we would do a baseline of muscle mass, body fat mass, water weight, BMI, percentage body fat, all these things. And then it was very, very discouraging for a lot of people, because they would see things, maybe their fat mass was higher than they hoped, or their percentage body fat was higher or even lower sometimes. And it was very discouraging for people, because immediately it's not, we the human, we go from objective to personal very quick. We go from, so what's the point? My diet's not working, my training isn't working, all these hacks that I'm doing isn't enough, or I become justified. And so I guess my question in saying all of that is, what is the most practical next step we can take after going through this analysis? Is it maintenance? Is it what you're doing is great, just keep it up? Or where do we go next?
Yeah. And that's where it becomes very personalized. And
Yeah.
so, in your case, we'd say based on our report, is looking great.
Okay.
You're functioning very well. The things that you're doing in your life appear to be very, very worthwhile. Now, I can't tell you if, doing breath work and doing, boxes in the evening are the reason for that.
It's not each individual component, but the sum of its parts.
Some of its parts.
Okay.
And so, for you, that's kind of the outcome. For other people, they'll come and say, I'm not sleeping well. And so, and we'll either confirm that or say, man, your scan and your report is wonderful. Let's talk through what's going on. We're not therapists.
Right.
But typically things...
It's a way to kind of eliminate something.
It's a way to kind of eliminate something.
Yeah.
And, typically we don't have a conversation with somebody of what's wrong. That's not... I guess, that's kind of the way that we're approaching this very differently. And again, you don't have to have something wrong to come in here and say, this is happening to me, I don't feel right. Actually, we prefer you didn't. We want you to come in and we're not your therapist. We're objectively looking at your brain and giving you a measure. Much like heart rate, HRV, an EKG, we're giving you objective data and a way to understand it. I think for the first time, most of us haven't understood our brain in this context. And so all of us need something different. And so, we have some very different conversations with people that have a report that's not like yours. But again, it's not in a judgmental way.
Right.
It's here's what's going on.
Yeah.
And they don't have to tell us why. They don't have to go into we're not therapists. They don't need to go into their background to put context into this. This is what it is.
Wow. This is so cool. Well, I know there are, like I said, so many other questions that I have and could go down, but I want to kind of rein in a little bit to, I think, a bigger picture of what we're actually talking about here, and that's what a lot of us aren't talking about. And it's getting better. And I love this, my words, not yours, the spin of, I'll say mental health here, but we're understanding brain health. We're understanding the brain, because for many of us, that kind of goes hand in hand, brain, mental health, brain health, mental health. And we're finding out now through a lot of studies and a lot of people finally speaking up, poor brain health can lead to poor mental health, and vice versa. Poor mental health can lead to poor brain health. Good brain health can lead to good mental health, and vice versa. The conversation is shifting lately of addressing these terms, and for society, what we were talking about earlier, for men especially, but also military. These are concepts that we served in very similar times, and back in the day, this kind of stuff was just like, if you go down the mental health hall in the clinic, like, good luck getting that promotion.
Right.
Good luck coming back. So I want to acknowledge that work at first and foremost, but how important is that concept, and what do you kind of see being the work necessary now to not only just address the stigma, but to annihilate it?
Yeah. I think you're highlighting a really important topic, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the military, but there are a lot of communities that are similar to the military where,
and we haven't said it again, by the way, but at least not on air. Happy retirement! You recently just crushed a 20-year service, Navy SEAL, like badass guy over here, everybody. So thank you for your service, and no doubt you've seen and gone through a lot more than me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Chase. I mean, we all have unique experiences for sure, but thank you. It's an important topic. It's an important topic, and thankfully, leadership in the military at the deck plates, Navy guys, so deck plates.
What is that?
It's kind of at the E3 to E5 level. The deck plates, the
junior enlisted. We call them junior
enlisted. Where the real work is being done. Mm-hmm. Where the real pressure is, for the SEAL community in the platoon hut.
Okay.
It's great to see that this conversation is opening up a lot, and it's not evenly spread across the military. I mean, there's still certain communities where it's more difficult to talk about. And although it was a long time ago that I was in a platoon, a SEAL platoon, it's not so much that mental health is a stigma and you don't want to go there, but I get whether it's young athletes, young SEALs, young firemen, police, anybody, nurses, frontline medical workers. It is very difficult at that level to say I have a challenge, because you don't want to take yourself out of the fight.
Yeah.
You're looking at your brothers and sisters, beside you and saying, well, if I walk out of here today and go deal with this, and I, go 30, 60 days at a treatment facility or something like that, they're going to carry my burden. Nobody wants to do that. I don't care if it's athletes, first line workers, it doesn't matter. We all do this job. You did this job because you care about the people around you. Mm-hmm. And if you don't when you start, you certainly do when you're in it.
Very true.
And,
Very true, yeah.
And so I think there's a component there. And the second component is that we're all, and I'll speak for myself here, I don't want to speak for other people. I was very hesitant because I didn't want to take on a victim mindset. Mm. The second I kind of took on this persona of I'm a broken individual, something's wrong with me, I didn't want to do that. I felt that would tip my health to the point where I would become incapacitated. Mm. And so I was more comfortable fighting every day. And now that I'm on the other side.
That's what you knew. That's what so many of us know in the military.
That's what we all know.
Just keep fighting, keep showing up.
Right. Live to fight another day.
Yeah.
All these different sayings that we all say for a reason. And what I wish I could go back and tell my younger self is you're actually hurting your team by not taking care of this right now. And that I actually almost stopped my career at the 15-year point because I wasn't healthy enough.
Wow.
Now, I was functioning fine, by workplace standards, I could do my job. But many of us in high-performing jobs, we can get by, but we're not where we were. And that discrepancy between where we currently are and where we've been in the past is heartbreaking. It's soul-crushing. We're good enough, and everybody around us is like, oh, yeah, you're fine. You're doing good. Everything's good. You're getting good feedback, whatever. But you're not there. That almost brought me to the point of walking away from my military career.
Wow.
I mean, days away. And thankfully, I was at Special Operations Command in Tampa, and a very good friend of mine, John Doolittle, was in charge of something called POTF, Preservation of the Force and Family. And I feel so fortunate to be part of the Special Operations community because they've had the ability to, because we're smaller, to put money and effort into caring for the soldier at a level that the Army certainly does an incredible job, but it's a matter of size at some level.
Yeah.
And so I was really fortunate, and John pulled me aside and said, hey, there's this technology called Wave Neuro. I know you've tried everything. And I tried everything.
I believe it.
All your listeners who have struggled will know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about with some of your struggles with your health. You do everything. And I was so fortunate that the SEAL community took care of me. Wow. And they provided that time. They provided the expertise. They provided everything possible, but it wasn't working. And that's when, there's a very dark day where all of us who go through struggles figure out, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. This is how I'm going to feel for the rest of my life. And that's a horrible, dark, dark day. And thankfully, John Doolittle pulled me aside and said, hey, we're in Tampa right now. And, we've been friends for a long time. He's like, we're trying this experimental new thing. And this is back in January of 2016. He said, it's not experimental, but we're trying as Special Operations Command for the first time. I want to send you to this thing to be one of the first guys to go through it. And at that point, I'll go do anything.
Sure.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Whatever it is, sign me up, I bet, yeah.
And so I flew out to the West Coast, to Newport Beach. And I went through, so what we've been talking about here is all performance-based. Mm-hmm. Our company also has a medical side. And that's actually the foundation of our company. And that's why we feel so comfortable about talking about the things we do on the performance side. We have this incredible foundation of neuroscientists and medical side. It's very, very robust.
It is, and we're in the heart of it here.
Yeah, and that's the part that I was cared for under. And when I came in, they did a similar EEG, but on the medical side, and I was under the care of a doctor for neurostimulation. So from this EEG where we get this great report, we also get a sense of if you get gentle brain stimulation at a very specific frequency, we can actually take a brain that, like mine, that through traumatic brain injury had slowed down and wasn't functioning well, and actually nudge it back. Now, again, I'm using very non-science terms because I'm not a scientist, but we gently nudge that brain back over a period of about 30 days.
Wow.
And it's
Which is nothing. 30 days is nothing.
And it's 30 minutes a day.
Oh my gosh.
No pain, no invasion, no pharmaceuticals. It's about as simple as it gets. And so 2 weeks into that, I had my first full night of sleep in a decade.
Wow.
4 weeks into it, I was back. I felt like I was 25 years old again.
No shit.
I mean, I was sleeping. I wasn't, now I know the terms, but I wasn't yelling at things that I shouldn't have been yelling at. My focus, I think I told you I was going through business school at the time on the side doing an executive program. And I went from struggling to being able to just sit down and crank for 4 hours.
Wow.
These are things that, obviously you've been able to do and really excel at that, but it was
learn
something
how to
that,
do.
it was something that didn't come natural to me. And I had all the tips and tactics. I tried everything. It wasn't, what's important, I think, for people that struggle with this, and when they see this report, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, is
Please.
When you were in a place like I was, and like so many other people are, where everything around them, the entire way they've been brought up through sports and activities and school is so challenging, try harder. work more, read another book, find the solution, just gut it out. This isn't gutting it out. You don't grit through this. That's not how it works. And that's why so many people come in and they even get the report. You just see this sigh of relief and this weight come off their shoulders, and they're like, oh God, it's not in my head.
I thought something was wrong with me.
Yeah.
I've been led to believe that something,
Yeah.
I've made myself believe that something's wrong with me.
That I wasn't trying hard enough.
Wow.
That I just didn't care enough about my spouse. It's like, no. Like, you're frustrated because of this.
Wow.
You're having emotional regulation issues because of this. You're not sleeping and you're ornery because of this. Not to make it you're not responsible for your actions. We're certainly not saying that. We are.
At least now we know what to address and how to address it. Yeah.
And so with me, they address that.
Wow.
And that medical side of what we do, that's how we're partnered with Wounded Warrior Project right now, which is unbelievable. I mean, what a great organization.
Oh, yeah.
We've been so fortunate to be partnered with Special Operations Care Fund for the last year, which has been enormously successful and popular special operations community because special operations spent so much time on the front line with high explosives, indoor breaching, Carl Gustav rockets, IEDs, but we also know so is everybody else in the military. And so Wounded Warrior came in and said, this has proven out with the special operations community. This is helping people. How can we not do this?
Oh,
and so
wow.
What an amazing opportunity now that we're able to support Wounded Warrior Project veterans or active duty, they're post 9/11. They can come into San Diego, Encinitas here, or Newport Beach and go through the medical side of this program at no cost to them.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wounded Warrior Projects has really come through.
Yeah. Fun fact, actually, my trajectory almost changed a little bit years ago. I almost worked for Wounded Warrior Project. I was being interviewed for their DCs, like their regional, they have a physical health and wellness kind of component to them.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I always wondered how that might have changed the trajectory of my life. But, I was telling you at the time I was a clinical health coach. It would have just been that, but with my brothers in arms,
Yeah. I mean, it's,
But here we are anyway.
it's all service,
less,
right?
yeah,
It's all ways to help those around us. Those of us who have served and people that have never been in the military, some of us are just service oriented. But yeah, I can't say enough about Wounded Warrior. And, I've only engaged with them over the past month, but the professionalism of the organization, their knowledge base, how much they care about veterans, it's been really impressive.
Ned, you've already given me so much of your time here today, and I want to be very aware of that and conscious of it. This has been fascinating for me. I hope the viewers and listeners, I'm going to share all my information, and that's kind of my jam. It's what I do. So the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm going to share the data, the quantitative, the qualitative, and then your personal experience on top of that has just been amazing. So this is great. I'm not sure by the time this comes out if I believe we'll have Eric's out first, Dr. Eric Wan.
I hope so. I hope so.
It's a lot more of like the hard-hitting science and neuroscience of what is going on here, but this was the real-world application. So I thank you for that.
Awesome.